karma is a very easy place to blame, right? Because nobody knows what karma is or what karma you're carrying. It exists. There's no observable evidence, right? That you've taken so many births in your lifetime and you're here for whatever purpose. Okay. So it sounds very convenient. And it becomes an easy person to accuse. For your own misery or your own situation. Now, this school of thought is not a very modern school of thought.
Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so today I got a little late for this recording because I was talking to a friend of mine. I mean, you know who it is. I can't quite tell it outside.
Okay.
She is going through a really tough time, okay? I mean, you know exactly what's happening, but she's got all sorts of issues with her marriage and children, and it's so much that it's never a small conversation, or it's never short, it just goes on and on, so hence all the time I took. But that made us wonder, you know what, when we were in school, we all have this fun thought, no, how our life will be. Oh, it'll be like this. Oh, I'll get married to someone like this. Oh, I'm going to settle down here. I'll do this. I'll do that. You know, her life is so far from that. I feel genuinely sorry for her. And then we help each other. We console each other. We cheer up each other.
Which is the right thing to do.
Yeah. But, you know what she told me? She told me that no, it's probably whatever I did wrong that's coming back to me. Oh, you know what? I must have ruined someone's life in my earlier birth. That's why I'm paying my debt now. Maybe. But how do we know? How do I know what I did wrong in my past births that I will have to pay for in the future, because you clearly don't have any memory of it. Okay, yep. So you don't know anything about it. But still, it may or may not happen in our lives right now, and we don't have any proof of anything. And anything that goes wrong, we'll say, oh, it must be because I did. It's such a way to convince yourself or to console yourself, like, hey, you know what, don't worry about it, it's because you did something wrong, now just live with it. And is it a very silly way of convincing ourselves of what may or may not have happened in the past, because of which these things are happening in your life right now? Is it like that? Or is it just random difficult times in your life that you are so hell-bent on looking for excuses to blame on? Is it like that? Because, you know, this is almost like a black box. You don't know what's inside it. You don't know how much is inside it. You don't know how many births you've had. There's no information about anything. We don't know anything.
Correct.
It's so hard to be a good person, whatever that good includes, and to be calm when times are difficult. More so, you know why? More so because there are some really mean people in this world who live a very peaceful life. Now you'll say you don't know what they're going through. Yeah. But really, I know on an average their life is a little better. Okay. I know there are some really sweet people on earth who are getting thrashed for no reason. And also, what do we say? Karma. So what the heck is this karma? Is this a real thing at all? Or is it some term somebody built to console ourselves? You know, that's a very nice way to calm your mind, and then you will give your best in this birth and move on. What is this birth? How do I know how many births I've had? How do I know what I've done?
Yeah.
I could be a nice person now, but what if I was a horrible... I don't have any information. So what is this? You know, right? Have you ever wondered, right?
So let's for a second assume that there is no karma, right? And it's a black box that we term as an issue, right? For all our problems. See, we are human, and unfortunately, we are put into very difficult situations on a day-to-day basis, right? And what happens when we are in a difficult situation? We can either choose to face it bravely, or the typical human mentality when you are put into a situation that you can't solve, right, is to blame somebody else or something else.
Yeah,
right?
Is that what we're doing?
And karma is a very easy place to blame, right? Because nobody knows what karma is or what karma you're carrying. And it becomes an easy person to accuse for your own misery or your own situation. Now, this school of thought is not a very modern school of thought. Even in ancient times, you had the Charvaka school of thought that spoke a lot about. You can call it as an ancient school of atheism, right? Or a school of thought of atheism at that point of time. But Charvaka's school of thought essentially said that this concept of karma does not exist. There's no observable evidence, right, that you've taken so many births in your lifetime and you're here for whatever purpose that again you don't know. And then you're interacting with people that all came from your past births, but then guess what? You don't know.
Yeah.
Right? You can make assumptions. Now, I don't think they're wrong in thinking that way, right? Because honestly, do you know what you're carrying from your past life and you're here for? And it's quite a valid argument, right? That they have. But I think the other part of looking at the other way of looking at this situation, right, is that it's important to realize that you are in a world where you interact with so many people. There's a lot of exchanges in energy and stuff like that, whether it is physical exchange of energy with respect to money or with respect to conversational exchange, right? Sometimes you have heated arguments with people. Think of it this way: when you get back home after a hard day's work and you've had a very tough day with somebody in your office, when you come back, you carry that baggage of emotion, right? You whether you're upset, you're angry, or you're happy in some cases. These are all exchanges of energy, right? Karma is an exchange of energy, or I'd say almost like a law that exists, like gravity, for example, right? You can't see it, but it is just there, right?
But it's been proven.
As in?
Gravity is real, right? There is scientific proof for it. There is no proof, so it's hard to believe or hard to, that's all.
Correct. But then if you look at karma, for example, I agree with you. You are not it's an easy person to accuse here, right? To say that, hey, this is the reason for all my problems, right? And again, you find people doing past life regression therapy, talking about past lives. Now, is that true? Is that an issue in the way they're thinking, right?
I don't know.
We don't know, and maybe it's right, maybe it's not. I'm not here to sit and prove or disprove that, right? But again, the more you think about it, there is always an exchange of energy that happens, and that is not. You don't need to prove it because it happens on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
If you want some work to be done in the house, you pay somebody the money for it, they come and they do that work.
Yeah.
There is exchange at a physical level. There is exchange of energy at an emotional and a physical level as well. And that is something that always you carry, right? You carry it always and you take it wherever you go. And the concept of karma says that there is a universal law. Now, are you to sit here and blame karma for your problems? Not really. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita talks a lot about action. Right. And there's also the concept of dharma that comes into play. Right. For example, as a father, you're expected to take care of your kids in a certain way. As a mother, you're expected to take care of your kids in a certain way. The sun is expected to come and nourish the earth every day, right? Show up, and can the sun decide not to show up one day?
You mean the sun? I was thinking the sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every object has got what is called dharma. A loose translation is duty, right? But then there is a job that each object, person, animal, whatever, right? Whatever you want to call it, has got in this world. There's a role that a person plays. Now, it's okay to always blame karma for it, but then blaming karma is not the right way to do it, right? Let's assume that karma doesn't exist for a second. What is the easy way out when you're in a situation, right? You can either blame somebody and cry and crib and do whatever, but then the way that you grow is to lift yourself out of that situation.
Yeah.
You could take help from other people to do that, or you can do it by yourself. Doesn't matter. But then, isn't that the way to look at it?
Yeah, that's what people are doing. But then, why a certain thing is happening is what they attribute to karma. Okay, I'm going through this because I might have ruined someone's life. So, I'm paying it back like this. Now I have to face this. This is my life right now. So, it is acceptance, it is working towards it. But the cause, they say, or who is they? What people generally come up with is karma. Oh, I must have done something. Or you must have done something. That's why you're suffering. It's a very common thing. Everybody does.
And I think it's also got a societal ingrainment in your mind, right? To blame something else for something.
Exactly. So is it something like that, or is it really a thing?
So if you're asking me for my opinion.
Yeah, it's just opinions here.
Right. Karma is a concept that exists. Do you need to live every day and blame your karma for it? No, you don't need to.
But it's there.
It operates like any other law in this universe.
Okay.
But then it is not a courtroom scene, right? There is no sky god there sitting and saying, hey Preethi, these are the mistakes you committed in your lifetime, hence you're going to show up next birth in as a cat or a dog or whatever, right? That's not karma, right? There's no judge sitting there and deciding if you were a good human or not. Because again, whether you're good or not is relative.
Because it's hard. If I had known how bad I had been in my other lives, if there was any information, any memory of it, I'd be nicer to make up for it, right? So when there's no information, it's so hard to be a certain way. You know what I mean? How much should I make up for all the mistakes I have done? What if I have not done anything? What about that? I don't know. There's just no information.
But isn't it better off not knowing that? Because see, with the information you have in this lifetime itself,
that's right.
It's a lot to deal with, right? Now, do you want to know from? Let's assume that rebirth is a thing, and that's how we all keep coming in for, I don't know, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 years or whatever, right? Would you want to carry that baggage with you?
I don't want to. I certainly don't want to. Now wait.
So isn't it by design better that we not know it?
Yeah, clearly. That is the higher good, probably. That's why we are dwelling this way in this world. But, okay, now wait. If this is how it is, we don't know, we don't have any information, and we are carrying the baggage. What baggage did I carry in the previous birth? What baggage did I carry in the birth before that? If we are all part of this one, we are all fragments of this one supreme energy, is that what you talk about, or whatever, we are all souls with just tiny bit. If we all started off like that, I started off very pure, right? I mean, I would like to think like that. How did this baggage start? Who did the first mistake? If everything is perspective, why is anything a mistake? We all could have just come and gone. Where is the start of karma,
So it's an interesting question, right? Because if you believe that your issues in this birth are because of issues from previous birth and so on and so forth, there should have been that one single birth that started where you really screwed up and then got you into this time
How
loop.
did that
right?
happen? What did I do? How will I know?
So Vedanta addresses that with the concept of
Aren't we all pure? We shouldn't have made that mistake at all.
Yeah, true. So Vedanta addresses this concept by the concept of anadi, which essentially says that there is no beginning and there is no end. Okay, so it sounds very convenient, right? But then the more you think about it, there's no starting point and no ending point, because we look at the world or creation or whatever you want to call it as more of a cyclic way of looking at it.
Correct.
And not linear, where you started at one point and it ends at one point. Now, think a good example to explain this is like the waves that you see in the sea, right? When you sit at the beach, you see the waves coming at you. Can you define when the wave started and when it ended?
I might not be able to define it, but isn't there a start point to everything? Isn't there? I mean, I know energy only gets transferred, it neither gets created nor destroyed kind of law, but I'm sure the wave started somewhere.
You know what? You're right. And maybe
We don't know.
we don't know what that is, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But again, there are
But
few
the concept is this: there's no start, there's no end. So
the concept is that there's no start, there is no end. The and every philosophy has got a different way to address this concept. For example, in the Sri Vidya philosophy, so there's a concept of avidya, which is essentially avidya, which means a lack of knowledge, but it is sometimes mistreated as a lack of spiritual knowledge, lack of knowing texts or scriptures or whatever, right?
Okay.
But the deeper meaning of avidya is essentially ignorance, right? And ignorance is not about being ignorant about God or whatever. You could be an atheist and still be a very good person, right? From a karmic standpoint. So, do you need to be spiritual to be a good person or have low karmic baggage? Not really, right?
No.
Even if you're a spiritual person, you can be a very
I
bad
know.
person.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
I know a lot. Yeah.
And irrespective of that, the concept of avidya is interesting because avidya says that you have. I mean, avidya essentially means ignorance. So, what are you ignorant about?
Karma.
No, you're ignorant about who you really are,
Ah.
right?
Ah.
And
Got it.
because karma is immaterial after a point. It's an easy black box to keep blaming, right? But you are in this situation right now, and you have the chance to do something about where you are right now. Now, if you want to play the blame game on something, that's fine, right? But then most philosophies within the school of thought, the Hinduism school of thought, right, will talk a lot about this concept of avidya. It comes straight from the Vedas as well. So, when you're ignorant about who you really are, and that is kind of closely linked with the concept of Maya as well, which is illusion, right? Because you are put into a world where there are various circumstances that make you behave in a certain way, right? For example, when I wake up in the morning, I know I have to get ready and head out to the office, do something there, and that's my livelihood because that gets me my money, right, for the month. And then you need to take care of kids, do whatever, right? So there's a lot of responsibilities that come as part of Maya,
Okay.
right? So what happens is when you live in a world of Maya, you forget who you really are. You forget, you sometimes go against your basic human values. You give more importance to money, you give more importance to pleasure, you give more importance to so many things that really don't help you discover the person who you really are. Now, Sri Vidya talks about the concept of avidya, and the same way where it's all Devi's Leela, right? Leela or Maya. Leela essentially is a play, right? So Devi's got a play in terms of how things have shown up, and you show up in a certain way and get so engrossed in that world of theater, right? That happens that you actually forget where you actually come from.
But I never knew where I came from. I don't have that information for me to forget in the first place.
And that is how by design it is,
Yeah.
right? So am I saying tomorrow morning nobody should go turn up to office and sit in one room and try to discover themselves? No.
So how do you find yourself? How do you find the purpose of your life?
I think before you find the purpose of your life, right, I think it's about understanding yourself better to begin with. Because how are you as a person? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? what are the urges that you can control, what are the urges that you cannot control. uh, because if you are able to start with that, that gives you the ability to control the way you behave or the way you interact and the way you deal with situations. Now, to discover who you really are, right, there are many ways. It need not be a spiritual practice,
Yeah.
right? Because again, from the Bhagavad Gita, right, even doing your duty is a way to discover who you really are, right? You don't need to necessarily sit and pray and do pujas or whatever, or go to the temple, church, or wherever to really discover God, right? Again, park the concept of God aside. Discover yourself. If you can discover yourself, you know who you really are.
Okay. I agree. So now, let's say I don't know if I've discovered myself or anything, but I have a certain set of beliefs. Okay, so I try to live by it. So I am pious and whatever that is. That's up to me. So I'm trying to be good in a certain way. Okay, now. So let's say I'm trying to gather good karma or not do the wrong things, so to keep my record clean. That's what I'm trying to say. So if I'm trying to do all that now, and again there are so many ifs. If there are rebirths, if in my next birth I don't remember anything that I'm doing right now, and in the next birth I am an unruly person who is doing everything wrong, then I accumulate the bad karma. Now, had I remembered what path I was on, I would have been able to continue. So now this is a never-ending cycle. If you just don't remember, your circumstances build what you are. The next birth, I could be born into a different circumstance, interacting with different kind of people. Then if I become the bad person for whatever reason, then I fall back on that ladder. So how to stay on a path, how to stay on a positive, at least a positive path that I think is positive, a progress. This is not progress then. So I think, oh, God is there, do this, do that, be good, I'll be on a path. The next birth I'll be the worst person, then I'll fall. But then it never ends. How do I continuously progress?
So again, I'll go back by the Sri Vidya concept of avidya, right? So Sri Vidya believes that the consciousness is pure, right? Which is, we all come from that supreme omnipresent energy, right? We can call it as God, we can call it as what we want, right? The Purusha Suktam calls it as Purusha, right? Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to call it, it's that supreme omnipresent energy form that we all come from. And that is pure, right? But avidya, or the ignorance of understanding that you belong to that energy form, makes you quite egoistic, right? Because it gets you to a point where you believe that you are an individual who can do whatever you want. You have the right to, I don't know, conquer the world or whatever, right? And that is the start of failure, right? Because your ego is very, very big, and you think you're greater than everybody else, right? In whatever field, whatever thought, right? So if you have that thought in what you are doing, you're not going to get anywhere. Right? So if you are on a path in your current lifetime where you are figuring out a way to understand yourself, and again, the process is not relevant here. You could be practicing any religion you want to, right? You don't need to. You can. I mean, even within Sanatana Dharma, you talk about dhyana or karma or any sadhana, right? It could be even meditation or like Ramana Maharshi. He just sat and looked and thought, right? So every person has got their own way of discovering themselves. Once you discover yourself this birth, say you've discovered or you're in the path of discovering yourself,
then
what have you done? You've actually developed some positive balance in your karma.
Exactly.
Right? Now, is this going to go back? And remember, for you to be able to do that this birth, you should have accumulated some karma to get you to this progression already. So when you get to your next birth, again, assuming that the concept of rebirth is there, right? If you get to the next birth, you already created that positive balance in your account, right? Which helps you go even further from wherever you've started. Because you wouldn't have been able to get to the point you are in right now without gathering some karma from whatever previous births that you had to be at one particular point. Many people are on spiritual path, right? Like people do various sadhanas, they do various rituals, whatever. Some people achieve certain things, some people don't, right? And does that mean? And you'll find there's so many stories of spiritual gurus who say that hey, they felt or they had spiritual experiences when they were 6 years old, 7 years old. When you're 6 or 7 years old, are you doing hours of sadhana on a day-to-day basis?
Exactly.
No, right?
Some people are lucky; they get it like that.
It is not lucky.
I wish I got it when I was 6 years old. I didn't have anything to feel.
Yeah, and it's not lucky or luck here, right? It is certain amount of baggage that you've carried, positive or negative, that shows up in a certain way this birth.
This is still borderlining on convenience, borderlining on ego in a way. Hey, I've accumulated good karma, that's why I am here. Isn't that ego itself? Right?
You could call it that, and that is why sometimes, right, you also hear of stories of spiritual teachers who go astray in their spiritual path because of ego. For example,
even the gods make mistakes, kind of stuff.
Even the devatas, there are so many stories in the Puranas where they make mistakes, right? You'll find a lot of stories of sages who get some mantra siddhi, and then that misuse it, or even it also gets to their head, right? And then that kind of stalls a lot of spiritual progress. Many spiritual gurus prefer not to get mantra siddhis because they know that might trigger their ego in them, and they believe that they are bigger than.
So ego is there everywhere.
It is there at every level, right? See, we are human.
Why? Why it was the first human made?
So there's a very interesting verse from the Narayana Suktam that says Rutagum Satyam Parabrahma Purusham Krishna Pingalam Urdhvaryatam Virupaksham Vishwarupaya Vayanamo Nama. The reason I'm calling this particular Rik from the Veda is there's this word called Rita, right? Rita is what you can define as the source of truth or the source of law or the source of what guides the very existence of what we are, right? And that is the ultimate truth, because there is something that works at a much higher scale and higher degree than what we can see, perceive. And it's a quite like you said, it's again a black box, right? Because you can say, hey, I don't see it, so it's an easy way to put a blame on, right? But then here, I'm not blaming Rita here, right? It's the way we operate. Newton figured out that the apple fell and he called it gravity. Maybe 200 years down the line, we'll find new other laws that we haven't seen or haven't heard of, right? Modern science has got its own limitations.
Of course.
And spirituality has also got its limitations, because we cannot prove things vice versa, right? And again, look at it from the greater good. You trying to put your ego down and discovering yourself, understanding your limitations, taking you on that path of a spiritual journey is not harming anybody.
Exactly. But it also looks like a very good way of humbling yourself and leading a simple, chill life.
And isn't
sometimes well, that's all there is. Maybe what is all this just? Okay, it just goes back and forth. Okay, but you know what I mean, right? What if these things never existed and we just added over decades and generations and everything? So many concepts were added now, because if there was something, where is the proof?
And again, I think the most
maybe there was proof and it got destroyed.
I think it's important to recognize that we have the space to question, right? We are not in a place where we cannot question these things and believe that this is the only way to think about it. We're not reading stuff and saying that, hey, this is the only way you can lead a life, right? A happy life.
Yeah.
I think it is important to be open, and Sanatana Dharma has always been open about it.
That's right.
In the sense, there have been various schools of thoughts, and we have always accommodated that, right, as a society. And irrespective of the school of thought, I think whether you've come from the Charvaka school of thought or the Vedanta school of thought or Sri Vidya or wherever, right, doesn't matter. I think everybody wants a person to be a good human being at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So even if you take out spirituality from here, the idea is to be a good human, and spirituality is an effective tool to make you a better human.
So eventually karma will settle.
It should.
If
If you're on the
if
right
you're
path.
nice, yeah, if you're a good person, then the ultimate thing is to like moksha and never be reborn again. I mean, that's a whole other concept, but yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's probably it. Okay, are we done?
I think so.
Yeah, we are done.
Maybe we'll speak about moksha the next time.
Oh no, that's okay, fine. Yeah, we can try. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.